Good morning. Thank you all for joining us, and those virtually also. So just a little housekeeping item first. If anybody needs the Wi-Fi code, it is BCS22. BCS22. Okay, thank you. All right, so my name is Jackie Devine, and I serve on the summit committee that put this together for you guys today. And I have the honor of introducing our next speakers for you all. So this is the EY Ripples group. So EY took a variety of corporate responsibility programs around the world and created one globally consistent program, EY Ripples. With a vision to impact 1 billion lives by 2030, the EY Ripples strategy requires huge levels of commitment and participation from everyone across the EY network. Through EY Ripples, more than 76,000 opportunities have been created, aligned with the UN SDGs and available in all EY countries. While continuing to develop off-the-shelf EY Ripples programming globally, local efforts happen through Ripples task forces. Sorry, I have a little rasp. As a reminder, all of these workshops will be recorded, and resources mentioned will be available after the summit in the Accelerants platform, and that all of us attendees have access to. We'll save some time at the end of this presentation for audience Q&A, so be thinking about those questions as these speakers are talking. For those virtual, we encourage you to send your comments and thoughts in the chat feature on the right-hand side, and we will make sure that we get as many questions answered as possible for you. And don't forget to share everything that you guys are learning on social media today. So tag BCivic, and I'm gonna say, take it away, EY, and cue the video.
Well, good morning, everybody, and thank you all so much for joining us today to learn about EY Ripples. Jackie, thank you for that nice intro of what we're up to, and hopefully we gave you a little bit of a taste of what this program is. EY Ripples is our corporate sustainability, corporate social responsibility sustainability program, if you will, and it's where we house all of our EY volunteers. I'm Chris Peterson. My day job, I lead our board of director practice, our Center for Board Matters practice. But my fun job is I'm our executive sponsor of EY Ripples here in our Colorado markets. And one of the things we'll talk about is we have our senior partners really focused on deploying and focusing on supporting the efforts in our local markets, which I think makes a real difference for us. EY, I don't know if you know who we are, but we are one of the big four financial services partnerships. You might not know we're 380,000 people now globally. We got big overnight, if you will. We're $45 billion of revenue. We are located on about 120 different countries. And we've deployed this Ripples program, which kind of started out more hodgepodge, to now be a global program that we're going to tell you a lot about. So to go through this discussion, we thought it'd be good to do it in more of a panel dialogue for you. So we have put together a really great group, and thank you so much for being with us today. We have Angela Milano in from Los Angeles. She is the corporate social responsibility leader in our West region, which is where Denver sits. And Angela has been with our firm for 19 years. And was one of the key architects of this global program. Again, moving from the disparate efforts that we all did and now moving to a global Ripples program. So Angela, thank you so much for coming in from Los Angeles. Kayla Wickman on the end is another EYer. Her day job, she's a manager in our climate change and sustainability practice. But again, her fun job is she's the project manager working with me for EY Ripples in Denver. And Kayla lives here in Colorado with her husband. She's newly married, and her dog. And she's one of our most prolific volunteers. She's been engaged in so many different programs that we're going to talk about, and is really, I think, the heart and soul of our program. So for these programs to work, you need leadership. You also need a Kayla that makes it all work for us in Denver. And then Colleen Kazemi in the middle is one of our partners in this whole ecosystem. She is the executive director for SVP, which is Social Venture Partners. And we've been teaming with Colleen, and Dave's here from SVP, which has been a terrific organization to help us get organized on focusing some of our programming. Colleen has an amazing career, if you Google her, from technology to entrepreneurship to impact investing and corporate social responsibility, leading a lot of foundations and charitable organizations like SVP. She's also an adjunct professor up at CU Boulder. So we love partnering with these guys. Thank you for joining us, Colleen, on this panel. So one thing before we move forward, I want to go back up, Angela. So our purpose, and I'm sure many of you have gone through corporate purpose work, we put together this purpose for ourselves as a corporation, building a better working world, gosh, about 8 years ago. And this program is one of the pillars of our building a better working world effort, if you will. And these volunteer programs for us aren't just one-off. They're truly who we are as people in our organization. You know, of our 380,000 people, I'm guessing 65% of our folks, I think that's about right, are millennials and younger. So we have a very, very young workforce. We're one of the big campus recruiters all over the world. Our people expect us to make a difference, not just in our work and how we, support our clients, but how we build a better working world for our own people and how we build a better working world in the societies where our offices are located and where we live. So this isn't optional for us. This is really critical to our purpose of building a better working world. So as I set the stage, Angela, why don't you take us through, we have a couple charts just to show you about and talk about EY Ripples, give you a little bit of background, and then I'll do some Q&A with the panel and bring them in as well. Angela.
All right. Hi, everyone. Really wonderful to be with you all here today. Frankly, I think we've done quite a good job of introducing you to the why we did this and how we're doing it. But, our goal is to impact 1 billion lives by 2030. And think about that. That's 1 in 8 people globally that our program will impact. This began in 2016, coming from our global chairman, who is, I think, really forward thinking about our purpose, about making a corporate responsibility program that was one of our 10 drivers of our strategy. And so what we're going to talk about a little bit more is how we did that. So as you can see, it's 100% aligned to the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. And we also really focused on the skill development for our people. And then how did we do this? I'm sure you've all have gone through developing your own corporate responsibility program, and we'll get into it a little bit more, but we really looked at the capabilities of our people. We looked at how we could develop our people and really the important things in the world that we really felt needed to be changed in order for us to succeed as a society. So those are the how and the whys as well.
And you talk about the pillars of the work we're doing. We have 3 main programs that I know you're going to tell us about. Here they are.
Yep. Yeah, so it's wonderful. So obviously, so we came up with the theme, right? And the name, which we'll talk more about. But we talked about what are our core capabilities and what are the 3 drivers for us that would really make change in the world. And so it's supporting the next generation workforce, and that's both young people, but also underserved populations. That's accelerating environmental sustainability. And then that's working with impact entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurship is a huge focus for us at EY because we know that by investing in entrepreneurs, they're really the folks that are going to help change and bring, it's not my right terminology, but helping them to succeed. So those are our pillars, and everything that we do is using our people's skills. So every volunteer opportunity we have is skills-based volunteering. And we are also, again, aligned to the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. Well,
I was just going to say as well, Angela, when I started to get into this effort with the firm, I was asked to be the sponsor because I'd done a lot of volunteering, but it was more one-off. So I lead our board of director practice. So I've been very focused on diversity in the boardroom, and my personal purpose. A lot of us have gone through purpose workshops to kind of align a purpose personally to our corporate purpose. So mine is to build a more balanced working world, especially for women and underrepresented minorities out there. So again, I did a lot of stuff, but it was more on my own. It was, I was a champion of change in the White House program under President Obama, which was super cool. Did a lot of work with women in STEM. Did a lot of work here in Colorado with NACD Colorado, the National Association of Corporate Directors, but it was more one-off. And so what I liked about this program was the ability to kind of group our volunteering into the 3 pillars. And now when our partners ask for funding to support, an organization, we ask them specifically, which of the 3 does your volunteering opportunity fit into? Because we definitely want to play bigger in the 3. And Kayla, I know, you've been volunteering a long time, and tell us about the transition a little bit, how you've seen kind of more this disparate one-off to now this more organized effort. What does that do for us as a firm?
Yeah, so when I first started with EY, I got really involved with helping plan our annual day of service. And that was before EY Ripples really became a program. So you had a lot of individual offices creating their own budgets, creating their own processes for volunteering. It was kind of whatever organizations people wanted, that's what we volunteered with. And I think really through Ripples, what I've seen is a lot of the overhead and time-consuming pieces, because we now have a team that's fully dedicated to our CSR program, it really enables people who are implementing these in local offices, doing this as kind of their side of desk fun job. It really enables them to do a lot more because they're not recreating the wheel in every single office. And I think also having those 3 focus areas and really that emphasis on skills-based volunteering means that our people are able to have a bigger impact. And it really, to Chris's point, I think brings all of this together around EY's purpose. So we're not just, doing random things in the community, which is good, but we're really able to kind of rally around what makes the most sense. How can our people have the most impact.
I think the concept of skills-based volunteering is different around this program. So, we still do events where we just are man and woman power out there in the community doing things that need to be done. But we also are investing in giving the organizations we work with new skills. And that's really great for our people too, to lead a workshop, to bring a financial exercise into an organization that might need some help, whatever it is, to give our folks the skills-based capability and pass it on to the organizations we work with is something I think that's unique for us. Angela, you mentioned that our goal is, and Jackie said it too, we want to impact 1 billion lives, right? That's a pretty lofty goal. And we are measuring that. It's part of our long-term value scorecard for our firm. So we've adopted that, principle of it's not just, we don't just look at ourselves of our short-term quarterly earnings, but really how we do all kinds of things from a long-term focus. So tell us about how we measure the 1 billion lives impacted.
So the way that we measure and do the reporting for Ripples is very robust. It's very complex, to go back to our earlier session. First of all of our projects for Ripples are in our own EY-created portal, the EY Ripples portal. And so as our people are setting up the projects, they are, indicating which of the 3 focus areas it's aligned to, how many beneficiaries that we're working with. Is it virtual? Is it in person? The time component. All of those elements. Oh, and which of the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals it aligns to. And then we even get more specific. Let's say we're working with impact entrepreneurs. We will, are they diverse entrepreneurs or are they social impact entrepreneurs? Because each of these elements, these are the inputs. If you're looking at that chart over there, all of these, frankly, shoot out a very complex measurement, which really gets us to our outcomes. And we take a very conservative approach in what we report for the lives impact. So the outcome is the lives impacted, and we're looking at all of those different elements. EY, along with the other big 4 accounting firms, a couple of years ago came together at World Economic Forum to create a working group on the measurement and reporting methodology. And I think as we are hearing about ESG, and we're really quickly awaiting for that to be something that all public companies are required to report on, I think that our methodology will be one that hopefully some of you all will be implementing as well. We are fine-tuning it, and once it is fine-tuned, I've been told we will be communicating it and sharing it broadly so that all companies can utilize what we're doing as well in this space.
You have an example up here too, Angela. I don't know if you can see it from there, but it ultimately gets to a social return on investment, right? Do you want to say anything about that?
That's a great question. I may ask my friend Chris to kind of comment on that. But ultimately, I mean, we all want to do good. And again, we're reporting on those lives impacted. I can't really speak to that, Chris.
Okay. But we do have, a methodology where we take the inputs, and in the past, we just measured inputs, the number of hours that our people volunteered. But now we're thinking about it from this external lives impacted, and with this new concept of SROI, which I think is pretty cool. So more to come, and we can have Chris comment on it later in the Q&A. So Angela, let's keep going and show us the journey so far. I mean, we're making good progress. Maybe slowed down a little during COVID, or we kept on track?
I mean, so our goals, we created our goal to impact 1 billion lives before COVID was even, we were even thinking about COVID. And we did not adjust our annual goals. And you can see we actually upticked. We were able to pivot really quickly because we had our own portal most of our project programming that we created in-house, we were able to pivot to virtual, and then we're able to work with collaborators like SVP to create virtual programming that helped us scale really quickly. So you can see so far we've impacted over 70 million lives globally, as we're in every country that EY works. And we've had over 100, more than 100,000 EY people participate in our programming as well.
And then we have our journey on the next chart. So take us through the work we've done and these stages, if you will, that we're going through, which we thought would be interesting to you as you're setting up or running your own programming. Maybe give us the highlights here, Angela, of what's important on the 8-step journey.
Yep, and I think feel free to take a screenshot of this. I'm not going to talk through every single one of the steps, but I mean, I'm going to really point, I guess, double click on a couple of things. So leadership support is, I think, the why we are so successful. Not only did this originate from our global chairman, it is actually something that down to, if I'm looking at my region, our region leadership is on their report card. They have 10 things that they have on their report card. Meeting their Ripples goals is one of them. So we share that. I share that down to the office level, to our Ripples task forces. They all know what goals they're trying to work towards, and that is one of the reasons why we're very successful. But then we looked at, so obviously we had this pie in the sky idea, and then we had this working group globally that came together to really ideate on what this could be. And I kind of talked a little bit about where we ended up there. Funding, we know this is, this can come from all different sources. For us at EY in the US, all of our corporate responsibility sits in, we call it talent, so HR, but in other companies it's under marketing as well. So, but I think finding your funding sources is incredibly important. And then, I talked to, we have over 100 different EY created programs, and Kayla is going to talk a little bit more about some of those and her work in those. But I think having your own set of programs that you've created in-house, again, that you can scale and amplify in multiple countries is important, but then also having local third-party collaborators. That's our term we use at EY, not nonprofits. It's a globally approved term. It's really important. So having this flexibility between programming that we can already do in-house, anybody can go anytime into the Ripples portal. There is something for our people to do every day. And again, I mentioned that we created that in-house. And then continuous scaling. I think that's been incredibly important. I have some points around that later, but actually I guess one of them is early on, our sustainability focus area was more outward facing. But to the point that I've talked about that we only do skills-based volunteering, we know that our people getting together on our volunteer days of service to plant trees, to work in food banks, we made it so that our people, the behavioral change was one of the ways we adjusted the descriptor of that, so that our people then are educated on the circular economy before they go to a food bank, as an example. And so the lives impacted are actually our people who are being educated at that food bank project around the circular economy and why that's so important versus what you may generally think is how many people were receiving those meals. So that's an example of how we scaled as well.
Great. And across this, these are the big milestones, if you will, of launching the program, committing, ideating, building, launching, and scaling. And again, we got our line leaders really involved in deploying as we started to launch. And that's when folks like me got involved here in Denver. And, as we looked at these different pillars, our programming, we had a lot of programming around supporting the next generation, which is one of the 3 pillars, which was great. We did a bunch of work with United Way, with Junior Achievement. So working with younger folks, was all in. Like we had a ton of volunteering. But on the two other pillars, which were impact entrepreneurs and supporting the environment, which in Denver, right, in Colorado, the environment is really important to us, to all of us in the room. We're outside, we exercise, we hike, and we didn't have, I don't think we had almost no volunteering there. And so we started thinking, well, let's just go out and meet some not-for-profits and sign up and get our people working on this stuff, put projects in the database. But that was really hard. And then COVID hit us and it became even harder. And thank goodness that's when we ran into SVP. So Colleen, tell us about your intersecting of us here and how we're working with you. It's been a real blessing for us to have the organization with us and bringing us into especially the impact entrepreneur area and the environmental area, which were big gaps for us.
Yeah, thank you. So we are a nonprofit that connects individuals, businesses, and funders to other nonprofits and social mission organizations in the Denver area. When I came on board, I've been here about 3 years, I came mid-COVID as well. And a lot of our activities were also building relationships and doing work for nonprofits in person. When we met EY, we had developed a program that we can talk a little bit more in detail about later that provided the opportunity for the skilled volunteers and the EY consultants to meet a large number of nonprofits and social mission organizations and have an impact to a group of them. And I know that many of those individuals from an EY perspective had just moved here to Colorado, didn't meet anybody in person, and were craving that ability to be able to give back into the community and learn more about a lot of the issues that are affecting our community. So we do a lot of work with food access, education, environmental sustainability organizations. So the first cohort that we did for EY that we can talk a little bit more about was really specific to environmental education organizations. And we have relationships or environmental sustainability organizations that are supporting the cause directly in Colorado. And so we did a lot of that recruitment. We have a lot of vetting that we do with these organizations because it always needs to be a good mutual fit. So the worst part is when you show up and you're ready to volunteer and they're not ready for you, right? So we do a lot of that work in understanding where each of these different organizations are within their own life cycle. And we helped match the EY consultants that have just incredible, backgrounds and skill sets to these organizations.
And Colleen, I think we've got a chart or two that you're going to walk us through about the work we've done together. And again, we've had great engagement with our own people and great engagement with these organizations we've been supporting. So walk us through a little bit and the value proposition on both sides.
Absolutely. So we did a theory of change program. A theory of change, if you're not familiar with it, is essentially a business model for a nonprofit. We work with individuals that maybe don't have experience with theory of change, but might be lawyers or have experience in other areas. We were very fortunate that actually EY consultants have a lot of experience in a lot of these different areas, and so it was really a win-win. But we have a framework where we have an expert. It's an 8-week program. We have 6 to 8 organizations that participate in that program. In EY's case, they actually doubled up the consultants, so they had 2 employees per organization. But what happens is throughout that, we build a framework for creating a theory of change or modifying your theory of change or updating your theory of change. A lot of funders require a theory of change for these entrepreneurs to be able to get funding. So the program was initially hybrid. So I think we were able to be a unique solution in this need to develop these relationships remotely. We're now doing it, or at least it was virtual, I should say. It's now hybrid, which has been interesting to kind of transition that a little bit. But what happens is throughout that time, these EY consultants would meet with the organizations one-on-one in between the virtual, now it's like in person, virtual. I don't know what's happening anymore these days, right? But in between each of the sessions that were led by one of our subject matter experts, the consultants would meet directly with those organizations and help them work on their materials. And in a lot of cases, there was maybe a board chair and somebody that is actually on the ground with the food banks or something along those lines. And so at the end, the organization has a theory of change, which is a pretty significant roadmap for what exactly they're going to do next.
And so that's a great example of skills-based volunteering, right? And we had, we're a big management consulting firm. We have a giant org change practice, right? So we have folks that know how to drive change management strategies, but we never thought of applying it to a theory of change for a not-for-profit. So again, it was tweaking our skills a little bit and bringing that to these organizations, which we would have never thought of if it weren't for SVP. So keep going, Colleen, on the employee experience, or maybe Kayla, tell us a little bit about our EYers that participated. What did they like about the program? And there's some quotes up here on the employee experience, the EYer experience.
Yeah, so I think one thing that was really nice is we had employees from across our different service lines. So we really were able to bring people with different backgrounds and skill sets. And I think what people really enjoyed about the program is it, one, gave them an opportunity to get to know people and an organization in the community. So really having that one-on-one time with the organizations. We even had some of our coaches go and kind of shadow them for a couple hours. So one of them was working with free-range beehives and I think put on a bee suit and got to see the organization in action. But I think really that opportunity to provide meaningful feedback to the organizations and feel like they were doing something useful and that really provided value and helped these organizations, I think is what our coaches enjoyed the most.
And Colleen, you want to tell us, show the group the organizations that we've teamed with, and again, what are they saying about the experience?
It's been an interesting learning experience for us as well. We just started doing these cohorts in 2020. There's been some incredible collaborations that have happened as a result, and a lot of it had to do with the EY consultants that have a lot of experience from the outside looking at these organizations and providing them similar to our keynote, right? Like teaching them how to think different and really considering a different perspective. And there were some meaningful collaborations that were developed as a result of these cohorts that also have resulted in foundational business model changes. And free range beehives, they put beehives on top of corporate buildings and they teach the organization about the importance of bees and sustainability. And they really had a meaningful business shift as a result of their coach who helped them really better consider some different models for some of that recruitment. And so it's been an incredible experience my favorite day is always the final pitch or the final theory of change presentation where these organizations, and I always say, Dave, let's get some testimonials. And I think I tear up pretty much every time that we do it because the organizations are just so incredibly appreciative of this. And all of this is done. So we talked about funding. EY does fund us as a nonprofit to put these organizations and put these programs on, and everything is free of charge to these organizations.
Great, thank you. So we have another video. Let's tee that up. We're going to talk about one of our big days of service, which for us is Friday. It's an America's wide day of service called EY Connect Day. Do we have the video? Can you get it? Okay, let's go.
EY Connect Days are when all our America's people get together to volunteer. These events are wildly popular with our people who love giving back to their communities. And it's a great way to build a better working world while having some fun with your teams.
Today, my team and I are here at Junior Achievements for kids to learn about financing, budgeting,
helping the Afghanistan Youth Relief Foundation sort out donations,
Our team has come together to clean up a park.
making this a public space that is usable for the whole community.
They actually get out and have some fun with each other and do some good.
To me, building a better working world is helping to give back to your community.
somehow the little we can do today, I'm hoping will have a larger impact in their life.
Skills-based volunteering means using our knowledge, experience, and resources to make maximum impact in your communities and in your careers, which is why all our volunteer activities align to our EY Ripples focus areas.
I love volunteering with my team. It builds a sense of camaraderie. I love also meeting new team members outside of my direct team.
It was really exciting for me as specifically a new hire that's started completely remotely.
I get an opportunity to create new relationships.
For me, the growth that it's given me is the self-confidence.
I think there's a lot of project management aspect involved to it, which I would definitely say is beneficial from a career perspective.
We reimagined EY Connect Day to make it even better. Moving forward, we'll offer 4 EY Connect Days each year, so you have more opportunities to get involved, to give back, and to get inspired.
Volunteering with EY Connect Day with my team makes me feel really good about myself.
It's always one of my favorite days of the year because of the connections that are made.
Honestly, it makes me feel valued and important.
It lends itself to people feeling more connected within the community.
Volunteering on EY Connect Day makes me feel like a contributing member of the society.
So please join us on our next EY Connect Day. Together, the ripples we create will become waves of change.
So that's our internal pitch to our folks to join the EY Connect Day. So we have single days like this, and for years I've been the team leader for A Precious Child. If any of you know that group here in town, Kayla, you've been involved in different EY Connect Days. So tell us about sort of the single day events, and then we'll talk about some of the longer term programs we have as well.
Yeah, so I think one of the things that really makes EY Ripples so successful is just the variety of opportunities and ways that people can get involved. So I think especially with EY Connect Days, because it is a day that everyone at EY in the Americas is volunteering together, it really encourages people to, step away from their client work, from their day jobs for a couple of hours, and is something that's really supported by the firm. So I think it's a really unique way to get people involved, even if it's just for a short time. But I think what also is really cool, especially with COVID, is a lot of the virtual workshops that our kind of global and regional teams have put together. So they've really built out a lot of decks and materials around business clinics or climate action workshops so that people, again, without having a huge disruption to their everyday work, can still give back in a meaningful way. So for one of our regional EY Connect Days, we actually worked with SVP Denver to do one of the business clinics for local organizations. So it was a great way for people who maybe didn't feel comfortable volunteering in person quite yet could participate virtually and still have an impact in a relatively short amount of time.
So let's talk about some of our longer term initiatives. I think you and I first crossed paths in Brazil, right? You were there for Earthwatch. I was there. We were doing some sessions around the Rio Olympics, which was super fun. And we had, 50 or so full-time volunteers that we were supporting to make a difference in different organizations in Brazil. And people were there for 6-month projects. With our support of their work. So talk a little bit about some of those programs that you've been involved with on the longer term scale.
Yeah, so I think there's a couple different ways. So one is EY partners with the Earthwatch Institute to provide a week-long opportunity for younger professionals to really get involved and give back. So it's one part working with local scientists in different communities, and it was in South and Central America kind of before COVID, and then shifted to the US over the last couple years, but really understanding and helping research around how climate change is impacting local communities And then one piece that's really unique to the program for EY specifically is providing a skills-based opportunity to support a local nonprofit, or in my case, we worked with local farmers to help them expand their businesses. But apart from that, there are also a lot of opportunities for people to kind of step away from their client serving or day jobs for, 6 weeks, a couple months, to really support and provide those consulting skills and use what they've done in their careers to give back in that meaningful way.
Let's talk about some of our multi-week initiatives, which are, again, great opportunities. We have one going on. I'm on the board of the NFL Alumni Association. And so we're going to be doing a Super Bowl event in Phoenix, which is where the next Super Bowl is. And an example of a multiple weeks, we're going to be doing a program through the Phoenix Boys and Girls Club on, it's an app design for food waste around the circular economy. So we'll be working with football players, working with kids, and we have coaches, the football team members, et cetera. We'll be working on designing an app for food waste, and it's, competition. And then we also have the day before the Super Bowl, a big food bank exercise. So again, trying to blend skills-based, helping these kids learn they can build an app. So they take app design out of this. And then we all do food bank work. So you can see we try to not have this just one-offs, but talk about some of our multi-week efforts like that, Kayla, that are impactful too.
Yeah, so I know we've already talked about the theory of change cohorts, but we also have a program called College Map that's national as well. And that's really working with college or high school students in underserved high schools. And our EY people will go, I think it's once a month for a couple of hours, and really work with these students. And I think what's really great about these initiatives is it's still not too disruptive to EY people, but is really a chance to build those relationships and feel like they're giving back and having more of an impact by being able to kind of work with an organization or students over a period of time. But we also did a really cool initiative here in Denver with Big Green, and we supported students that were, developing ideas around sustainability and really providing that coaching and feedback to them as they were working through that. So it's another great way, again, to spend a couple hours a week, a couple hours a month, to really provide feedback.
Angela, you want to talk about Big Green? Because that's been something that we were just at the big national gala. To tell the folks a little bit about that, because it's fun.
Yeah, it's really fun. So Big Green initially before COVID was learning gardens in communities around the US. And then when COVID hit, they had to completely shift the way that they did their programming. And so I got involved because they're headquartered here, and we worked with them. They were creating a program called Big Green at Home. So the idea is to bring this curriculum that they had into the home. And we had over 1,000 of our people on last year's EY Connect Day virtually do the projects in their home with their kids, most of them. And then they had to go in and actually provide feedback to Big Green on how the materials, how they worked, and how even the signups and the portal worked as well. So we were actually giving very significant feedback to an organization so that they could pivot and make their programming scale globally, which is one of their goals. And then right now they've just created, over this past year, they've created a DAO, so a decentralized autonomous organization, where they raised over $6 million in funding, which was distributed to 98 nonprofits across the US who are really focused on food insecurity. So, I mean, they're not in the room today, but one of the things that we're talking with them about is how can we upskill those nonprofits? So focusing on supporting the next generation is if those nonprofit leaders, we're going to help them, but then also how can we in our local communities work with those organizations for volunteering around the sustainability, but also potentially are people joining the boards of these organizations. So that's just one example of how we like to look at how we can scale with an organization.
And this is heavily funded by Kimball Musk, Elon's brother, here in Colorado. So that's been really fun. And these galas and stuff are just over the top, wacky and cool and different. I don't know if anybody went to the Big Green Gala up in Aspen just this summer, but it was really fun. And, you know, when you can tap into some of the big money donors, it really helps these smaller organizations obviously just take off. So we try to find those folks and use our time when we know there's other funders besides just us that can come to the party. All right, so the last thing before we answer your questions, we just have a chart on, do we have a lessons learned chart, or we're just going to talk about lessons learned? So maybe we just go right down the line on, you know, what should this group know about, you know, how we're executing, things to think about and learn that they can take back to their organizations. Kayla, you want to start?
Yeah, sure. So I think from a local perspective, again, I think some of the things Angela hit on, but really that leadership support is crucial. So really making sure that people are aware that they're supported with doing these efforts makes it a lot easier for people to go out and spend their time volunteering. And I think also, again, that just variety of opportunities. So knowing that people are going to want to volunteer in different ways and have different capacities, and really providing kind of a mix of opportunities for people to get involved.
Colleen?
You know, I think that I will resonate that comment related to multi-tiered managerial support. I think, you know, leadership support, we hear a lot of organizations that say, you should be volunteering. I worked for a very large data and analytics company that gave us a day a quarter, but it didn't happen in practice, and it wasn't practiced by the leadership team. And every EY individual that committed to this program, so we did do a lot of info sessions and tried to help them better understand what that commitment was. They were encouraged to make the commitment by their management, by their leadership team, and they showed up, which is really incredibly important to these nonprofits that are already under-resourced. You know, so the last thing that they want to do is try to embark on a volunteer project with people that don't have that time and the culture to commit. So that's been incredibly valuable to us.
Angela, what would you leave us with?
I think it's been really important. Again, the leadership support is paramount. I can't, you know, emphasize that enough. And I know that can be challenging if you feel you're at the bottom and it's not coming from the top. But that's one of the things I really encourage you to do. Being agile and being able to think through how you can scale. We were successful because we were able to pivot quickly to virtual during COVID. And we're telling the story of why this is so important, and it's resonating with our people. And so storytelling is huge. I'm just going to share one other thing because Chris touched on it, and I really want to emphasize, especially those of you who are working in multiple geographies. We have the 3 focus areas. Chris shared how Denver really realized we want our focus to be environmental sustainability. But I have another very small office out of Arkansas who is doing huge work around impact entrepreneurs. In fact, I think they were the greatest number of our lives impacted last year because of all of the work that they're doing with impact entrepreneurs. So everybody has a purpose and can really choose their own adventure in this work. And I think having that flexibility has made our people put their arms around ripples.
Yeah, I think that the global and America's wide structuring through our talent organization, but the deployment through the line locally and letting the local teams do what they want really, and has been awesome, because then we can find organizations we want to team with, do special projects here that resonate with our people, has been great. Okay, so any questions that you all might have? Yeah, there's a question back there. Okay.
Before you speak, sorry, for the people online. So I don't think it's going to be a problem, but okay. So Christy Schaefer, I'm the Executive Vice President for Junior Achievement here in the Rocky Mountain region. And we are so thankful for our partnership with EY. I love all the verbal and graphic depictions of you guys out
supporting our organization. But I guess I feel, especially after our keynote this morning, I'm feeling this need. I mean, JA's been around for over 100 years, right? And we have a lot of our stuff down. But after that, I'm really like, oh my gosh, there are so many probably organizational debt issues we're working with that we need to address. And I love the idea of working like with EY Associates on that theory of change, and how, I feel like the two collide in a lot of ways. And what is it that we could be doing differently to meet community needs or even address organizational needs? And so I just want to say we'd love to work with you guys on that. I don't think just looking at new organizations is, I'm just thrilled with all that, but would love to apply it to longer term partnerships and even partnerships that we have in different markets with EY, because we're all extremely different. So anyway, just a thought.
Thank you. I'm sure we can get us a meeting together with Colleen and team, and we'll do that. Perfect.
Just to kind of quickly share, so Junior Achievement is one of EY's flagship organizations that we work with. And just to share, we actually did a bespoke, we call it a wave space experience, and we did bring together members of different JA chapters to help with this. But I think knowing that you reinforce this, we will definitely get you an update on where we are with that.
Great. Other questions?
We have one right
Yeah.
here. We'll
Okay,
come to you next.
sure.
Thank you. And hi, Christy. It's great to see you. My name is Alex West. I lead our community impact work for Slalom Consulting, so a similar business model. And something we've been struggling with that I would love to hear how you guys have solved around billable hours, volunteer time off, and matching incentive structures with getting people giving back in the community. So anything on your incentive structures, VTO programs would be really helpful.
Kayla, you want to take that one?
Yeah, so I think kind of addressing more of the kind of review side of things. So it is something that our people, it's considered as part of our review cycle. So if people are spending time volunteering, that's taken into account when leadership is reviewing. And I think to Angela's point too, the fact that leadership is also kind of not judged, but reviewed based on these factors is really important. I will say from a billable perspective, everyone's given a charge code for their time spent, but it is a non-billable code. So it's, finding that balance of not taking people away from the market for too long. But Angela, I don't know if you want to add.
I'll just add a couple other things. So we have 100 unlimited volunteering for our people. We have a very flexible schedule workforce at EY. So as long as you can continue to make your role, your day job commitments, you can volunteer as much as you'd like, and we really encourage it. But there are certain projects that do have billable hours, such as our pro bono projects. So those do hit to our people's utilization. We don't have dollars for doers. What we do have is matching gifts through higher education. So did I answer? Is there anything else specific you'd like to know, or is that good?
You're making me feel better too about where we are.
Yep.
Yeah, so it's, again, we track time. A couple projects are billable if they're the longer term ones. But for the most part, it's we look at the hours and we add that in kind of manually during the review process.
Sorry, I saw you first.
Thank you. Yeah. My name is Claire, and I work with Deed, which is a giving and volunteering platform for companies. And one of the things we work with our clients on is connecting their people to the mission of their companies, which it seems like you all do so well. So I'm really curious, Angela, how you all pivoted your strategy during COVID. You'd alluded to that in the presentation. And then what are some of the takeaways on your side on what you're bringing into this more hybrid era? And I'd actually love to hear from Colleen as well on that with SVP.
Just trying to think how to respond to the first part of your question. Honestly,
maybe it didn't change.
I don't think it really changed. I was, because I think early on I was part of, early on, like I think in February, I was part of some, talking to leaders, and we were already, I think the good news, I had a good head start to be really thinking what was going to happen. And at that time, I was the relationship manager for our work with Nifty. And so we worked, it was great for them too, because if they were, it was helping them to already think how could they scale their programming virtual, and gave them a full 45 days start to be thinking about that. And so I think that's that's I think how we were able to do it, and we were right there. We were able and ready to respond. Something just really cool that we're doing now, and as I'm talking about, and we've got Chris here from our global CR team who works on our sustainability work. We are doing, I'll get the new name right, sustainable skills workshops. And we're working with both impact entrepreneurs and nonprofits to help them think through where they are in their ESG journey and to really quickly pinpoint what they can do. So that's just we're constantly creating programming like that we can scale across the US or global and to be virtual and or in person.
We did end up doing a pretty unique model of this fully virtual theory of change session. And I think for us, it was pretty impactful to our business model because most of our volunteers were working with the organizations on site and developing relationships with each other on site. So COVID, they were looking for something else to do with an hour of their day, and they were really interested in doing something virtually. So that was one of the things that we did. We do work with lots of different size organizations here. Our model is organizations that need help in other areas that are supporting communities that need that level of support. So Metro Caring has participated in some of our different programs. Juntos to College was one of the organizations that participated in the EY program. And our model is really unique from that perspective because we're trying to create some of these natural collisions that might not normally happen. And that's actually been the case. So the theory of change is a good place where we can have an organization that has a lot more experience or pitching or storytelling. Or pitch workshops are really typical where we might have an organization that's doing a capital campaign. We might have an organization we support many with introductions to funders. We have one that's doing food access that's trying to raise $300,000 for an impact loan. So we did a lot of not only storytelling, but then a lot of skilled volunteer matching where we helped them with their financial model and their cash flow forecast and things like that. So I think a lot of it is really meeting these organizations where they are and developing opportunities to make some of these, creative collisions, which EY also is doing with all of your different selection of options.
Great. I think we have time for one more question, and we'll give you the mic.
Come in.
Hi, good morning. I'm Ramona Houston I'm an independent social impact strategist out of Atlanta, Georgia, and I help build brands and legacies through social impact. I really like this session, and it's wonderful to see a session full of women. I have one question. Many times companies go into communities, telling communities what they need. And I was wondering, do you have a space in EY where community organizations can actually tell you the solutions or share their perspectives on the solutions to the problems, challenges and social problems, versus it being top down? That's one of the critiques communities have, is that businesses think they have all the solutions and they're not good listeners.
I guess I would suggest that our two big partners, Junior Achievement and United Way, have great ears to the community. So we really take the lead in a lot of our programming from those organizations. And then again, through the entrepreneurs, it's very bottoms up listening. The beautiful thing of theory of change, not only can you do it virtually, but I think being able to really help and get underneath the mind of the local entrepreneur helps you kind of keep yourself true to the mission of listening and not just telling. I don't know if you guys would add anything else.
I'll just add, early on in my work in this, I realized you can't tell anybody what we want to do with them. We need to listen to what the organization needs and work with them to help scale that. So, and we serve on just in our region over 1,000 nonprofit boards. So we have leaders that are always listening as well and telling us. And then at EY, we also have a social impact committee. It's of partners from across EY, and they're responsible for making some really large grants in this space. But I think, Ramona, that was a really good question, and one I think I will take with me to further think through how I can help EY to answer that better. So thank you.
Great. Well, with that, we will let
Yeah.
Jackie wrap us up.
Thank you. Well, thank you to all of you for being here today. Can we give them a round of applause? I know I am inspired, and I'm going to steal the third-party collaborators. I love that. That's great, and many more things. So, I mean, feel free to connect with these people here at the summit. You know, we said last night at the happy hour that these in-between times are just as important as these sessions that we're in, and connecting and, you know, sharing best practices with each other. So, all right, coming up next. So the second workshops are Causes in Common, the intersection of CSR, DEI, and ERG strategies, which will be in this room. Leadership in Climate Action in Cripple Creek Room 2, and then Nudge the Good. That will be in the ballroom. So those will start at 11:15. So you have time for a quick break now, but you won't want to miss those. So come back and join us for the next one. Thank you all.
Thank you.